Hello everyone. Today I'd like to talk about Pegu Mon Kingdom and its relation to Theravada Buddhism, which is the contemporary equivalent of Southern Buddhism in Southeast Asia. In the 13th to 15th century, Myanmar was divided into two parts. One was called the Upper Burma, and the other one was called Lower Burma. And as you can see here in the map, usually we have a dry zone, the line in between, wet area and dry area. In the middle of Myanmar nowadays, the capital city Naypyidaw is on the line in between the two. And the dry zone, the capital in the old days tended to be known as Awa or Amarapura, just south of Mandalay in the city. And southern Myanmar, during that time, the capital city was called Bago. During that time, the city was called Pegu in the old Mon pronunciation. And those time, from 13th to 15th century, even though Myanmar was divided into two countries, relatively very peaceful time continued. And during the time, the Myanmar, especially southern Myanmar, was ruled by the queen. In Korea, for example, we have only the case where the queen, governing the country is a Silla dynasty before integration, unification of Silla. That's the only time when we Korea have a queen, woman ruler. And in the entire history of Myanmar, just one time in Myanmar, the queen was governing the country. That was lower Myanmar, mostly Mon area. And the name of the king was Deng Xiaobu. And she got the power from 1453 to 1472. She was remembered as a very nice queen. And during her regime, lower Myanmar was very prosperous, and the people there become very happy as far as I'm concerned. And according to the legend surrounding her, it actually said before she got married with the prince in the Upper Burma, she was already get married with another man in the Lower Myanmar. So she divorced and going up to the Upper Myanmar, get married with the prince, And then after some time, she decided to going back to the southern Myanmar. Maybe she doesn't like the climate of the Upper Myanmar, or she doesn't like people there. But when she was coming back, she was coming back with a monk. We don't know what kind of a relationship the monk had with the queen. We don't know. But she came back to southern Myanmar with a monk. And when she coming back to the southern Myanmar, she became a regent of a young king. The young king was actually her brother's son, very young, and she became a regent there. And she was governing the kingdom. And then after a short while, the people of Lower Myanmar requested her to be the queen. So she accepted. So that's 1453. And she ruled around 20 years. And interestingly, she got married before she was going up to the Upper Myanmar. So she had a daughter. And she made her daughter get married with the monk. She brought him, together from the north to the south. So when the monk, returning the vow, become an ordinary man and get married with the daughter of the king, she actually make him, the prince, of the country. And then shortly after, she actually give her, a kingship to him. So he become the crown prince, and then he become the king. So the king, who has got experience in Buddhist Sangha in Upper Myanmar, used to be a monk, become the king, and his name was Dhammaceti, and his official title is Lama Bodhi. One of the well-known king in Burmese history. And this king, Dhammaceti, during his regime, southern Myanmar was very peaceful. Usually, in the history of Southeast Asia, when country become very peaceful without having any problem, usually monarchy try to do some, how can I say, purification of Buddhist Sangha. So this is following the tradition of the King Ashoka among the standard Buddhist king. And Dhammaceti, in Lower Myanmar, maybe he is a Burman, he has come from the north, but become the king in the south, among the Mon area. When he saw a Buddhist Sangha there, he find out that Buddhist Sangha in the Lower Myanmar are separated. Each temple and each Buddhist order, they are all separated and they all fighting each other. Dhammaceti wants to unify whole, a separated Buddhist Sangha into one during that time. So how to do that? To do unification of Buddhist Sangha, he used the Sima. Sima, we talk about this. Sima, its basic meaning of Sima is a line in between spiritual world and secular world, line in between pure area and secular area, something like that. So boundary or something like that. Early 1800, when British missionary went to Myanmar, they found out that monk there, when they do ordination, the monk prepare a flat land, and then they made a line in a rectangular shape, and they dig the soil and out. And here, when they made the soil, they put water there, like this. They pour water. So with this water, the area was separated. Inside of the water, just like an island, this is a pure area. And outside, a secular world. In Southern Buddhism, when they do high ordination, they usually do inside of those pure areas, because before they do high ordination, it's just a man, an ordinary person. Inside of the pure area, when they do the ordination, when it is finished, this man become a monk. So this area should be special, and make this area very special is using the Sima. Sima. It's kind of a long custom, doing in the Southern Buddhist area, and at that time, when the King Dhammaceti, looking at the situation of law of Myanmar, making the Sima is not authentic, not good according to his own opinion. Dhammaceti might well read the Pali text, and according to the commentary of a Pali text, the Sima should be set up properly, which means the Sima should going down inside of us at least 1.5 meter. It's very deep inside. It's mainly because when we made the Sima, the line, in the old days, instead of using this kind of line, they use a stone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stone. And maybe one stone under the Buddha statue, altogether 9. So then we can link, you can imagine the line in between the stone, then it becomes the line, and the Sima was just setting up. But the problem was that, in the tropical temperature in the southern countries, when there was a tree trunk enter into this area, and the tree root can enter inside of the Sima, the pure area, something like that. Then it was not good. So in the commentary, they said this area should be completely separated from anything from outside. That is why it said the Sima stone should be very deep, at least 1.5 meter. So I assume when they set up the Sima, maybe they clear the land, dig into at least 1.5 meters, put some rocks and so on, and then made a pure soil, and then make this kind of stone boundary to show this is a pure area. Maybe they use something like that. Then this area inside is just clearly separated from outside. So that's the proper Sima. They should make it. And the king, Dhammaceti, when he checked the Sima in his domain, he found out that most of the Sima stone are very low, or something like, only 20 centimeters or 30 centimeters. So this is not according to the Pali text. So the king said, you people in the lower Burma, you all said you are monk, but you are wrong, because your Sima was wrong. Any monk who become a monk under wrong Sima cannot be the real monk. You are all ordinary people. Here I show you one of the Dwaravati Sima, very nice, carving of the Buddha, with the Brahmin offering kusha grass to the Buddha when he was approaching to the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya. And you can see here the lower part of this Sima, very low, not that 1.5 meters. If we go to Laos, even though there are some Sima looks deep inside, but less than 30 centimeters or 50 centimeters. You can see they have a nice carving of pagoda, but not that deep. And this one also not that deep, you can see here. And next one, they have 3 sitting Buddhas, but the depth look like 30 centimeters. It's not that deep. One of the Sima I like is this one. My friend monk living in Vientiane in Laos, when he show his temple, he show me this stone. This is the Sima. He become very proud. We have a very old Sima, something like that. That's the Sima. So the king, who wants to reform and unify, separated the kingdom into just one. Dhammaceti actually do or raise a question. Your Sima was not good, so you people cannot be the proper monk. So you should follow me. That's what Dhammaceti did when he got the power there. So Dhammaceti believed that the lower Burma, Myanmar, was called Ramanya Desha in the southern part of Myanmar. Where he ruled was Suvarna Bhumi, to which the king Ashoka sent a missionary. Therefore, he thought that their Buddhism basically followed the tradition of Thera, Sona, and Uttara. I don't know whether you remember. I said to you that during the time of King Ashoka, as a formal diplomatic relationship, he sent his son Mahinda to Sri Lanka. So Lankan Buddhist tradition start. This one we are quite sure because of the history book Mahavamsha and Dipavamsha of Sri Lankan chronology talk about it. But at the same time, king also sent Sona and Uttara to Suvarna Bhumi. Varna is the color and Su is good color. In India and Southeast Asia, good color always be gold color. The color of the gold. And the Bhumi is land. So Suvarna Bhumi means land of gold. So land of gold, we don't know exactly where it is, but southern Burmese believe the place where they live in the southern Myanmar is Suvarna Bhumi. And the people in Thailand usually believe Suvarna Bhumi must be Nakhon Pathom, just 60 miles in the west of Thailand. And some people in Cambodia believe Suvarna Bhumi is current day Phnom Penh or something like that. They all believe because they want to be the first country to accept the Buddhism in Southeast Asia. But anyway, during the time of King Dhammaceti, he believed that Sona and Uttara alive in Suvarna Bhumi, and Suvarna Bhumi must be lower Burma. He believed lower Burma must be the Suvarna Bhumi, during the time when the king. And actually, it is quite possible, but as we thought, we think about, there are some possibilities, but we cannot be so sure whether it is Lower Myanmar or Lower Burma or not. Not that clear. But the king believed it. This is the country where Buddhist tradition follow Sona and Uttara. And the Sona and Uttara become the first person to start ordination lineage. Their ordination lineage belongs to Sona and Uttara in Southeast Asia. So their Buddhism different from Sri Lankan Buddhism, which start with Mahinda, the son of the King Ashoka. But the king said, when Sona and Uttara first came to Lower Myanmar, they set up Sima properly, and the Buddhist order follow according to the rule. But as the time goes by, Sangha Veda, Buddhist monks separated, and step by step they forgot how to set up Sima properly. So at the end of the result, nobody can make a proper Sima. So he thought this tradition, Soma and Uttara ordination lineage, almost died out. So the king declared you guys are no longer proper monk. And then the king prepared 22 young monks, together with he separated them in two groups. Because the king wants to send them to Sri Lanka to have a proper ordination and coming back, I think somewhere here, I start here. Here. He thought that their Buddhism basically followed the tradition of Sona Uttara, who was sent during the region of King Ashoka. However, as a conflict with the Buddhist order intensified, formal Buddhist ceremonies like Upasampada and high ordination were performed independently at the different simas, different boundaries. Thus, the division of the order was accelerated to the point where no one could properly set up Sima. The king Dhammaceti finally decided to purify and to unite Buddhist order in his domain with the raising question of a proper Sima. King sent monks to Sri Lanka to have ordination from Mahavihara, which best maintained the tradition of the Mahinda. So Mahinda ordination lineage he actually chose. He then started to reform Buddhist order in southern Myanmar from this Sri Lankan ordination lineage called Kalyani Sima as a starting point to help with the monks strictly follow Vinaya rules. Kalyani Sima I'm going to explain. The king Dhammaceti dispatches two groups of 22 monks to King Bhubanekabau of Sri Lanka along with his letter and gift. And his gift was very nice, and he write a letter very formally to ask the king to prepare proper high ordination for dojo monk according to the Mahavihara tradition. And the king Bhubanekabau become very happy, maybe the present, maybe the situation make him very happy. So during that time, when the king sent a monk there, Sri Lanka was controlled not from the Polonnaruwa, but from the western part, where the capital could be very close to Colombo nowadays. Just above the Colombo, there is a river. And this river is called nowadays Kelaniya River. In Pali, old Buddhist language, it's a Kalyani River. And according to the Buddhist legend, when the Buddha visited Sri Lanka a long time ago, he had the bath here. So the Buddha had the bath here. So the water in this Kalyani river is holy water. So the King Bhubanekabau, gathered together all 22 monks there, and they bring them to this Kalyani river together with the high monk from Mahavihara tradition, I think. And then Sri Lankan king, together with the 24 Mahavihara monk, that's Sri Lankans, performed the ordination ceremony for those Mon monk by setting up a raft floating on the river Kalyani, where, according to the legend, the Buddha had a bath when he visited Sri Lanka. At that time, the 44 Mon monks were first declared as ordinary believers, and then proceeded with the ordination ceremony according to Sri Lankan tradition, effectively passing on Sri Lankan Mahavihara lineage to them. So Sona and Uttara tradition suddenly died out at this point, and all the monks who went there, they become, Mahinda or Mahavira lineage they are starting to follow. So I will show you some photos. This is Sima, and if you go to Myanmar, in Sri Lanka, you can actually see Kalyani River, and I was there 2 years ago and took a photo of the river. I will show you here. It's not that far from the current day's capital, Colombo. I found out here. Where is the river? This one. So the river was not that very wide, but with the tropical river, it's very dark and green. And in the old days, they used raft to going, across the river like that. And it's quite very big river, as far as I'm concerned. And according to the record, the king prepared a raft on this river. So that was actually painted in nearby a temple called Kelanya Raja Mahavihara. Inside there, you can see, I think, Mahavihara monk, already following Mahinda tradition, already sitting inside of the raft, and the guests one by one enter into the raft. They are from Myanmar, Lower Burma, so Mon monk enter there. And when they all enter, they removed this bridge so that only raft was there on the river. So if I may say, the river was a holy river. The whole water is holy water. And then they have a raft. So this is a perfect place which separate, this pure area from the outside secular world. Outside the secular world. So inside of this raft, they do ordination ceremony. So those monk, with this ordination, when they enter, they will follow over Sona and Uttara. When they are coming back, they are follow over Mahinda tradition. So before they enter, they are Southeast Asian monk, but they are coming back. They are actually following Sri Lankan Buddhist tradition. So with this kind of ordination ceremony, one by one, Southeast Asian Buddhism actually follow Sri Lankan ordination lineage, and they all value Sri Lankan one is higher than their own. So that kind of attitude, we usually call it Lanka-centric attitude. They all start here, they all follow Sri Lankan tradition. So those monk, when they were coming back, the king, start to reform Buddhist Sangha in his domain together with the monk. They are coming back. Here, the monks who returned from Sri Lanka and the elders in his domain built a Mutao temple near the capital city of Pegu to set up Kalyani Sima, to have most of Mon monks of southern Myanmar to have reordained. When they are coming back, the king, built a huge temple together with the other monks, elder monks, and they set up Sima, maybe like that, water Sima or something like that. And then the king asked all the unlawful monks in his domain have ordination again. So all the monks, in southern Myanmar, starting to have a reordination. and according to the record, 15,666 monks reordained in Doge Kalyani Sima by the year 1479. I assume almost all the monks in the raw Myanmar had ordination according to this tradition. So, with this one, suddenly all the Burmese monks become following Sri Lankan, ordination lineage, following Sri Lankan tradition. It seems to provide an important opportunity for Sri Lankan Mahavihara lineage to dominate Buddhism in Southeast Asia. You can actually see. At the end of the result, suddenly monks in Raw Burma they are under a unified sect, one Buddhist ordination tradition. They are all in one Buddhist ordination tradition. I think Dhammaceti didn't actually expect, but when Myanmar collapsed during the third Anglo-Burmese War in 1887 or something like that, the monarchy disappeared, and the Myanmar was basically country where there are so many ethnic groups, Burmans and Mons, Karen, Shan, Arakan, and so on. There are so many ethnic groups. They become one country because of the monarchy, king. They have a king. But when the king disappeared, they all felt whether we are the same one country or not. They were not sure. So during that time, Buddhism actually starting to say, even though we are ethnically different group, but our ordination lineage was just one. When Dhammaceti set up Kalyani Sima, monks in Burma follow. Maybe Upper Burma as well, step by step. So suddenly, Dhammaceti's reform of a Buddhist order in southern Myanmar became a kind of effective tool for Burmese people when they were under British rule. With this identification, they continue to feel like one country and one people, even though ethnically different. And this kind of idea eventually become a kind of a driving force when they try to become independent. So nowadays, if you go to Myanmar, the king, Dhammaceti, did this reform, become a kind of a holy place, in Pegu. Very nice building they actually built, something like that. It looks as if a kind of country's identity belongs to here. And if you go there, you can see, how can I say, the stones, where they record all the things King Dhammaceti did. It was discovered around 1860 or 1870 near Pegu. You can see like this. Those are the stone pillar where the King Dhammaceti recorded what he did, why he did, what's the problem with the Sima. And those inscription, when southern Mon kingdom collapsed, monks in the southern Myanmar escape from there. They usually going down to Thailand. When they were going down to Thailand, they usually had a copy of the Dhammaceti's record We call those material as a Kalyani Sima material, where all the things King Dhammaceti did, they bring it back to them. So there are manuscripts as well, for those King Dhammaceti's reform, and we also have this kind of how to make a stone pillar, and the governing of the kingdom of by Dhammaceti we still can see. But here you can see one by one, Buddhism in the Southeast Asia become a part of Buddhism in Sri Lanka, step by step. So monks, if they wants to be very powerful and successful, they have to go to Sri Lanka. When they go Sri Lanka, they tend to go to have a pilgrimage to the Buddha Pada, the footprint of Buddha, at the very high mountain in Sri Lanka called the Theravada. Yeah, this one. This is the actual mountain. At the top of the mountain, we believe there is a footprint of Buddha there. They pay homage to that. And then they go to this river Kalyanya, and they also had a bath, just like the Buddha had a bath. And then they have a reordination according to the Sri Lankan tradition. So when they're coming back to Southeast Asia, they become very famous and very renowned monk. Just like in South Korea in the old days, anyone who become a very big monk, they usually go to China. And they learn Buddhism from Huayan tradition or Tiandai tradition or Neipan tradition. They learn there. When they're coming back to Korean Peninsula, they become very famous. Something like that happening, So with the frequent, interaction in between Sri Lanka and southern Myanmar, make Buddhism in Southeast Asia transform into Sri Lankan style Buddhism, and which make people of Southeast East Asia thinking Sri Lankan Buddhism is authentic and real one. So Lanka centric and attitude starting to appear. I think this is how Myanmar Buddhist tradition became under Sri Lankan lineage. The king used it, and the people like it, and at the end of outcome, Myanmar become holy country of Buddhism, something like that. So I stop here, and maybe I will continue to talk about Sukhothai, one of the oldest kingdom in the middle part of the Thailand, how they embrace Sri Lankan Buddhism and so on. I will talk about it later.